Look, there are folks around college football that don't want to admit it, but Curt Cignetti and Indiana's scheduling strategy is genius.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I'm Jacob Goins, host of the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Thank you so much for being here and joining us on today's episode. Tons to get to. Our buddy TJ Pittenger and I sit down. He's with the Big Ten Football Addiction Show, and we continue talking the scheduling conversation that Indiana has found itself caught up in because, look, I think Curt Cignetti and Indiana are a genius. Not necessarily talking Notre Dame in particular, but tough non-con games just aren't necessary anymore. We talk about that. Plus, we look at the coaches poll that came out earlier this week and some basketball updates as well. But before we get to those, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Here, we sit down with our friend TJ Pittenger.
Welcome back to Big Ten Football Addiction, Locked On Hoosiers as well. Jacob Goins with us, TJ Pittenger here. We are chatting Indiana, and listen, I was really excited about this Indiana Notre Dame series, and so I'm going to lead with that, but then I'm going to zoom out and go a little big picture. Is there some drama? Is there some controversy around who canceled this thing?
No.
I was not super plugged in. I was not like on Twitter, like both feet in deep. And so when I saw the USC news come out first. And so my thought was, okay, hopefully that doesn't change anything else. Unfortunately, it did. Obviously, the Indiana schedule, game against Notre Dame gets canceled. I'm not trying to take shots at Notre Dame. Their fans really like me, but that would lend itself to why would Indiana cancel at that moment if that was the case? Now, crazier things have happened in this sport over the last 5 years. So is there some controversy, some drama? What are you hearing? What are your thoughts on the cancellation here?
Yeah, I'm glad Notre Dame fans like you because they have had a different message for me on the internet the last couple of days. And yeah, because the timeline of your events is correct, right? I saw, and this is how it came out, that Notre Dame and USC had scheduled a 4-game home-and-home series. And I was like, awesome. For college football, that's great, man. Those two teams should play all the time. They've got the rivalry. They've got the history. I was like, I even tweeted out, TJ, I said, good for these teams for making this home-and-home, for them to be going from South Bend to Los Angeles, not playing it somewhere random in Atlanta or Dallas or wherever, right? I was like, cool, good for them. Then about 45 minutes later, the news, because this didn't even cross my mind, swear on my life. It comes out that Indiana and Notre Dame's future series got canceled because there were conflicts. And I was like, well, crap, that sucks. Come to find out, the language that a lot of people have been using was that Indiana was the one that initiated the cancellation. And while that might be true, I think they did it to help Notre Dame, who clearly wanted to play a 4-game series against USC more than they wanted to play a 2-game series against Indiana. Why? History and money. That's why they did it. That's why they wanted to. Notre Dame was like, hey, Indiana, we want to play USC, but it's got to be early in the season. Indiana said, cool, we'll just cancel our series because we understand Cignetti and Indiana aren't the biggest fans of playing power conference teams and non-con play. So it just seemed to work out for everybody in this situation. But yeah, dude, Indiana, Curt Cignetti, Jacob Goins, we're all getting dragged on the internet because of this entire thing going down. It's been a wild past couple of days.
What I don't understand maybe is from the Notre Dame perspective, could they not play them both? Is that just, Notre Dame gets ragged on all the time for their schedule. Not all the time. Last year. They lost the only 2 good games they played. I know they have the ACC scheduling agreement. I know they've played Navy a billion years in a row. I know they're adding USC. I know they've got the Clemson deal for the years that they don't play them in the ACC. And so, yeah, I know you don't want every single week to be a battle to steal from the SEC, but
right.
Would it have been that crazy to I am fully bought in on Cignetti. Yeah. Do you even know what USC or Indiana are going to be in 2030?
No.
Cignetti like wins 2 more. Is he still there in 2031? Like, is he just hanging it up and not that I think Indiana's going to fall off a cliff. USC is not even a good team. I mean, they're fine, right? Like, they're above average, but they haven't been elite. It's just frustrating me as a fan who wanted to see this. And my ultimate dream, outside of my own team, making it, my ultimate dream would be to see Indiana Notre Dame in the championship this year. I just think that'd be awesome. But
that's what I'm saying. All these games would have been good for college football, and all the people people can come at me. I don't care. We're in this business for a reason, and for people to agree or disagree. But I want these games to happen. These are good games for college football. Ohio State, Texas this year. Awesome. That's what we want. Those are good games. Florida State and Alabama. Those are good games. Indiana, Notre Dame would have been awesome. It would have been cool for the state. It would have been cool for the fans. It would have been cool for the sport. It just didn't work out. And again, I think Notre Dame wanted to play a 4-game set with USC more than they wanted to play a 2-game set with Indiana. And USC told Notre Dame, hey, we'll play you. That's cool. But it's got to be in September because we play this crazy thing called a conference schedule where we have to play 9 games in a row against the best teams in the country. So we can't play you in November because Notre Dame gets to pick and choose who they play and when they play because they're not regulated. So USC was like, yeah, we'll play you, but it's got to be early on. And so I think Notre Dame didn't want to play both. They wanted to play USC, and Indiana let them out of the deal. I think that's what happened. And Indiana was able to benefit from it too in terms of not playing tough non-conference games, which again, I don't love, but that's the Cignetti way. That's the Indiana strategy. And as long as he's there, that's probably what they're going to do.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky.
That's boring. It's a snooze fest. I get it.
Kennesaw State, Indiana State, UMass, Austin Peay, Eastern Michigan, Miami of Ohio, Ball State, Eastern Illinois, Western Kentucky. Those are the 3 non-cons for the next 4 years, and then in 2030, a non-con is taken off with Indiana State. So we at least do get an Indiana versus Indiana program matchup. And Delaware, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody was thinking back on January, whatever it was, 26th, and thinking, man, I wish we would have played one more tough game out of conference. Like, you're trying to win championships. And so is that like all that Cignetti cares about? Is it like, dude, our non-con doesn't matter. We'll go out and win a championship, or we'll go out and compete against the Big Ten and prove ourselves there. I also don't think, like, had Indiana lost to a tough non-con out of, last year to Texas or, FSU, whoever. Well, Florida State wasn't tough, but they did beat Bama. Lost to a tough non-con out of conference last year. Like, it would have impacted anything. They still would have won the title. And so you just answered the question, but the question was going to be, would they ever change this? Like, would they do it for the fans, like to try and give them something else? Or
I don't think so. And I hate that because, again, I think that would be so cool for the fans, for the sport, but why would you, right? Put yourself in the shoes of a head coach whose job is to win football games, make the college football playoff, and compete for championships. Why would you put your team through the ringer of another game against, even if it's a mediocre to bottom tier power conference team, like an Oklahoma State or if you're talking Big Ten, like playing Purdue or something like that. Like, why would you
play Duke or something? I don't know, just anything.
But why? That's the problem is, why would you do it if you don't have to?
And if you're not going to be punished for it, then who cares? You know?
It's a broken mindset, but until somebody changes the rules and regulations, Indiana's going to hammer that until the cows come home.
Yeah, which I completely get it from both sides. Like, I as a fan of Florida State, who we just played a home and home against LSU, we are playing a home and home against Alabama.
Right.
We're playing Georgia in 2 years at a neutral site. I love those matchups. I love those games.
But Florida State's in a unique situation where you already play a scheduled non-conference power opponent with Florida.
Yeah. So you're adding another one, right? Clemson's doing the same thing. They play against South Carolina. They're going to LSU. They just finished up with Georgia. They have the scheduling agreement with Notre Dame, which is kind of like a half conference game, I guess. But I think that's, so from the fan side, man, that would be a lot of fun. I get it from Cignetti's side too. Dude, I'm trying to win a championship. I'm going to give myself every advantage that I can to go out and win a championship. I also want to cut Indiana a little bit of slack here. Most of these games were scheduled before they were good.
The Notre Dame series was scheduled in 2021.
Let's be fair to a lot of these opponents that are on that I just read off, the Eastern Kentuckys and the Ball States and the Austin Peas. There was a time not too long ago where those were not gimme wins, right? And that's not a shot at Indiana, but let's just address reality.
Fact.
Those were games that you'd say,
you had to
going to win.
You had to have them.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you weren't making a bowl. Like you had to have those to make your bowl. Yeah. And so I don't know. I see both sides. I understand both sides. As a fan, I wish everything was a power opponent. Like I wish there was no FCS team. I don't care if you schedule Wake Forest, Duke, and Syracuse. At least you're playing somebody with like somewhat relative competition level. So I get both sides. I get that it's frustrating. I hate it, but I get it too. Like I said, if they win another trophy this year and they go 16-0, nobody's going to say, well, the haters will, the SEC will, but nobody's going to say, dang, I wish we would have played one more game in September that was big.
Exactly.
So I get it, but I'm moping today. That's just what we're doing. So Jacob Cohen's Locked On Hoosiers, TJ Pittenger here with College Football Addiction. Make sure you're subscribed to both. Jacob, we'll see you soon, man.
Thanks, man. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. There are more live events than ever worth seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to go to. It's actually getting tickets to those events, right? Because between the long wait times and the confusing checkout processes and those surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. That's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. The app is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive savings opportunities that help you get to the events you want to without the usual hassle. So we bought baseball tickets in Chicago last week to go to the White Sox game. I've gone to concerts using it. I know family members who have gone to some theaters and some musicals and things, and they all use Game Time. You will literally get rid of every other app on your phone. You'll never visit another website with how awesome Game Time is. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Right now, you need to download the Game Time app today. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Again, appreciate you being here. Thanks to our buddy TJ Pittenger kicking off the show with us on this Thursday. And the coaches poll came out a couple of days ago. Came out on Tuesday, and wanted to react to this because I just don't understand whether it's the AP poll, whether it's the coaches poll, whether it's the media poll. I just don't understand why people continue to disrespect and not believe in what Indiana football is doing. Coaches poll came out this week, and Indiana comes in at number 6. For those of you on YouTube, you're looking at a graphic right now. For those of you on audio, we'll talk you through it. Ohio State, number 1. Oregon, number 2. Georgia, number 3. Texas, number 4. Notre Dame, number 5. Indiana at 6. Miami, 7. Texas A&M, 8. Oklahoma at 9. And Ole Miss at 10. I just don't really understand why people are not buying Indiana this year. I understand you lose a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. Okay, cool. All right, you lose your top 2 receivers from a year ago with Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper. Understandable. You lose some guys on the defense like an Aiden Fisher or D'Angelo Pons and those types of guys. Okay, I get it. But do people, and in this instance, coaches, not understand that Indiana completely reloaded and rebuilt every single one of those positions? Do they not understand that Indiana has a chance to be better roster-wise than they were a year ago? And for a reminder, that's a team that went 16-0, the first ever college football team to do that, and then won a national championship. I've never seen the disrespect for a defending national champion like I'm seeing for Indiana this season. 6 is way too low. Am I saying they should be number 1? No, not necessarily. I think there's an argument for that. But why are people not buying Indiana? I just don't get it. And so, look, I really do think when it comes to Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon. They are the top 3 teams in the Big Ten. They are the top 3 teams in college football, which goes to show that the Big Ten is the best conference in the country. There's no debating that. But I really do think any one of those 3 teams will win the national championship this season. Do I think Georgia is good? Yeah, I do. But I don't think they're as deep as they have been. Do I think Texas is good? Yeah, I do. But until I see Arch Manning deliver against good competition, I'm not going to buy it. And then Notre Dame is in there too. And I know there's a lot of drama with Notre Dame this week, but we're talking strictly what is going to be on the football field this season. Yeah, I think Notre Dame, if I had to take a team outside of the Big Ten to win the national title, I probably pick the Notre Dame Fighting Irish because they're a really good team. Marcus Freeman's a really good coach, and their schedule is right? Because they like to pick and choose and nitpick on who they play and when they play them and where they play them. So, yeah, that would be my pick. So, I think they belong in the top 5 too. I think Indiana should probably be, as we put this graphic back up, I think Indiana should probably be where Georgia is at number 3, right? But you look at the Hoosiers and you look at the rest of the Big Ten, you've got USC in there, you've got Michigan in there at number 16. Penn State at 17 is a little questionable. I don't really know where that hype is coming from with Matt Campbell and year 1 there in Nittany or Happy Valley for the Nittany Lions, since they brought a lot of their Iowa State guys with them, but we'll have to wait and see. I think Washington is absolutely deserving of being at number 19. Iowa at 22, not buying it. I think they'll be 7-5 this year, and then that wraps it up for the Big Ten. But I can't get behind people not believing in Indiana. And maybe they just have to see it to believe it. I think so many people, fans and media and coaches and things, I think so many people have bought into the mindset and the mentality of, well, lightning in a bottle, one-time thing. It's a one-hit wonder. They can't do it again. They'll probably be good, but they're not going to be great. I'm just not buying that. I think Indiana will be great. I think Curt Cignetti is great. I think a lot of the guys on this team are great. I think your coordinators are great. And I think that schedule is difficult, but manageable for Indiana. And so, look, at the end of the day, do polls like this matter? Nope, they don't. You know which poll matters? The college football playoff poll, which, in my opinion, I think we should completely eliminate preseason polls altogether. I think the AP poll should go away. I think the coaches poll should go away. And I don't think we should have any sort of rankings until midway through the season when that first college football playoff poll comes out. That's my opinion, because reason I say that, you now have the coaches poll, and I'm sure the AP poll will come out here in the next several days or before the season gets started. You now have a predetermined opinion about a team that has yet to take the field, right? All of a sudden, we have in our mind subconsciously, oh, Indiana's only the 6th best team in the country. Oh, Washington's only the 19th best team in the country. Oh, Iowa's the 22nd best team in the country. So then if somebody beats one of these teams early on and that team drops like a rock and plummets and ends up being 6-6, you're still getting credit for beating them when they were ranked, when it turns out they really all weren't that good. I just think it doesn't make sense to rank teams before they play a singular game. I don't understand it. I know why we do it, because it creates buzz. It creates conversation. It allows us to do what we're literally doing right now, which is talk about other people's opinions and give our opinions on it, right? That's what media is. That's what podcasting is, and radio, television, whatever, right? But I wish it wasn't this way. I wish we could play 4, 5, 6 games and then say, okay, based off what we've seen, based off what has actually happened with the players on this team and the results on the field, this is who we believe are the top 25 teams in the country. It'll never happen. It won't. But wouldn't that make a whole lot more sense? And I understand the argument against that is, well, how do you determine that? How do you determine strength of schedule and strength of record for those first set of games if nobody is ranked? Get rid of it. Don't judge strength of record or strength of schedule. But then you can base it off of the new rankings and then say, okay, so in week 2, when Ohio State beat Texas or Texas beat Ohio State or whatever. It's like, I know that's a top 5 example, so it may not be the best, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, okay, you beat that team in week 3 or 4 or 2 or 1. Wow, that was actually a pretty good win. Or like we've seen in years past, teams that beat Florida State or beat Bama or beat whoever. And it's like, yeah, that team actually wasn't all that good. And that's great. What was it? Georgia Tech a few years ago that beat Florida State and got a top 10 win. That Florida State team ended up being, I think, 500 or something. It's like, but they're still getting credit for a top 10 win. That just, my brain doesn't allow that to make sense. And so, did Indiana get disrespected in the coaches poll? Absolutely, per usual. Do I think Indiana is better than 6th in the country? Yes, I do. And my opinion is, I think preseason rankings are stupid, but they got the job done. They got me to talk about it, and that's what we're doing here on today's show. But when we come back, our final segment, we flip to the hardwood because I put out a tweet earlier in the week on my, I guess I put out a post on my X account at Goins2Jacob and on Locked On Hoosiers because I just happened to notice on our friends on FanDuel, Indiana's national title odds have all of a sudden gone up and they're higher than you think. We talk about that and where the Hoosiers stand on the hardwood in winning a national championship right after this. All right, final segment on today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. And as promised, we flip to the hardwood where our friends at FanDuel, right? Check them out, FanDuel.com. They've got the college basketball national title odds on their website, and they're always constantly changing. And especially right now, if people are adding new players and signing new players, right? Saw Arizona sign RJ Godfrey from Clemson, Indiana adding Sam Alexis, trying to get that finalized as well. And I was like, let me just go check. Let me just take a little peek, see what FanDuel's up to, see what the people are saying, see where the money is going, and see where Indiana stands in the betting odds. And as you can imagine, Duke and Florida are at the top. UConn's up there. Illinois, Texas is actually really high. They've got a really good team. Michigan is up there as well. Teams like Houston, Louisville, Arizona too. But then you don't have to scroll very far. And there's Indiana, plus 4,500 to win the national championship. Now, to give you a little bit of reference here, Duke and Florida are at the top, as I mentioned, at plus 600. Indiana is at plus 4,500. For those of you not really in the betting world, you put $100 on Indiana. If they win the national title, you win $4,500. It's pretty good, right? But let me tell you some teams that Indiana's in a circle with. They're kind of in the same unit, same rotation, if you will. Indiana's odds at plus 4,500 on FanDuel. How about UCLA is at plus 4,500? Kentucky is also at plus 4,500. And these odds have changed since I put out that tweet a couple of days ago. Kansas at plus 4,000, Miami at plus 4,000. And guess who has better odds to win the national championship? Indiana's odds right now are higher than the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue is at plus 6,500, Indiana plus 4,500. So that should give you a little bit of an idea at where Indiana stands in terms of the eyes of the bettors right now. This has absolutely no bearing, no impact on who wins the title. But this is where people are putting their money. And I think people on the outside, when talking about Indiana basketball, I think there are a lot of folks who have seen this team now play, maybe saw some of the highlights from Peru. They've seen the roster additions through the transfer portal and adding Sam Alexis. And they understand that year one just wasn't an accurate representation of what Indiana could be under Darian DeVries. I think a lot of people are buying stock in Indiana. Do I think the Hoosiers are going to win the national championship? No, absolutely not. But this goes to show that the Hoosiers are going to be better, or at least should be better, than they've been in recent memory. Because let's look at the Big Ten teams that are above them, right, according to betting odds. Illinois, Michigan, Michigan State, looking through here, USC, right, looking through, and UCLA, who's tied with Indiana. So 4 teams above you, and you're tied for 5th in national title odds in the Big Ten. Folks, that's way good enough. More than good enough to make it to the NCAA tournament, right? That's more than good enough to win more games than you lose in Big Ten play, which Indiana has struggled to do as of late. That's more than good enough to make a run in the NCAA tournament. And again, betting odds mean nothing in terms of what's going to happen or what's not going to happen on the floor. I bring this up today because a lot of you seem to be excited about it on social media. And I think it just gives people some perspective that Indiana is supposed to be better this season. And man, when you're looking at it from the outside, how could you not? Right? How could you not be pumped and excited and at least intrigued on what Indiana is going to do with Aiden Sherrell, Samit Yugutolu, Marcus Burton, Bryce Lindsey, Darren Harris, all these guys who came in through the portal. And you bring back Trent Sisley, who I've consistently said is going to have a sophomore surge. And you just added some paint depth, some big depth, right? With Sam Alexis joining the team again this year. People are buying in. Nobody's truly planting their flag and saying, I think the Hoosiers win the title. But you sprinkle a few dollars on it right now, and if Indiana is better than we expect and gets hot and makes a run, you could cash in. And I think that's where a lot of people are. They are believing the Hoosiers have a chance to be competitive. And if you can build from last year to this year to next year, and Indiana can continue to recruit the way they've recruited and hit the portal the way they have, a lot of things to learn about Darian DeVries for sure. But I'm telling you, there's a chance for Indiana to have a special season in 26-27. And people in Vegas and people are putting their hard-earned money on it to at least have a chance at Indiana to be good this year. So we'll see how those odds change between now and then. Again, literally, they've changed in the last couple of days since I put those posts out on social media. But Indiana right there, man, one of the better teams in the Big Ten according to odds. And you never know how those could adjust as we get closer to the season and then once the season begins, especially the exhibition games and that awesome non-conference schedule that Indiana basketball has. So very excited for that. Basketball season will be here before we know it. But that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. So again, thanks to TJ Pittenger for joining us, talking a little Indiana football as well on the coaches poll and some basketball to wrap up the show. All right. We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe and I'll talk to you later.